Yellowstone centers on the Dutton family, who are descended from early 19th century settlers in Montana. The largest continuously run ranch in the United States, Yellowstone Ranch, is owned and run by them. The Duttons are frequently at conflict with both a native tribe in Montana, called the Broken Rock Reservation, and land developers who seek to divide up their territory. The inhabitants of Broken Rock can occasionally be seen playing drums, wearing headdresses, and dressing in suits. The Duttons' tale is ultimately told in this way. John has 4 children. Jamie is a local attorney. He is loyal to his family, but drifts further and further apart when he disagrees with his family's direction for Yellowstone's future. Beth is the Dutton sister, a savvy financier driven almost entirely by manipulation, anger, and pills. Luke Grimes is initially the more distant Dutton, who lives on a reservation with his Native American wife Monica and their son. But that changes quickly when Case takes on the role of his father's henchman. Lee is just a cool cowboy brother who wants to carry on his father's legacy, but Monica's brother kills him at the end of the first episode, so that's it. Thomas completes the cast. Rainwater, the new manager of the Broken Rock Local Conservation Area, and Dan Jenkins, a developer looking to start new projects on the Dutton land. Yellowstone Ranch meets the Broken Rock Reservation, which believes the boundaries set by the Dutton family are simply artificial. According to them, they believe they can still claim rights to a large portion of the Dutton family's land and the cattle that live on it. The ongoing struggle quickly comes to a head in episode 1, when John's son Lee is killed by a Broken Rock resident after a cattle run. The remainder of season 1 follows the Dutton family's real estate developer. Dan Jenkins isn't the ruthless and outwardly tough guy he pretends to be. He's not used to the wild western world and wild forests of Yellowstone that come to the region from the big city. But once in the mountains of Montana, he tries to use his business acumen to rob the Duttons' ranch. With a nifty tax plan, he almost succeeds, but is thwarted by physical threats from the Duttons. He was even willing to play dirty, teaming up with Thomas Rainwater to beat John Dutton. Toward the end of her time on the series, Jenkins began learning how to fight the Duttons on her own terms, even hiring private protection and taking gun handling lessons. Unfortunately, he didn't learn fast enough. Getting into his licks, he couldn't match the ruthlessness of another pair of Dutton's opponents, Malcolm and Teal Beck. Making an enemy of the Becks was a huge mistake, and Jenkins just wasn't up to the challenge of facing a far more ruthless.
Now, hold your fire.
Slow downward spiral. And to make matters worse, while leading the prosecution against Broken Rock, John is also tasked with keeping tabs on Dan, a land developer who is on a mission to buy Yellowstone Ranch for development. Oh, and John has a secret cancer diagnosis that he's keeping to himself. However, before she can succumb to her cancer, she must ensure her children get their business in order, and that is no easy task. Beth is deeply loyal to the family heritage and takes the lead when it comes to trading movements from Yellowstone. He spends the same amount of time courting and threatening Dan Jenkins to make sure he stays away from the Dutton family ranch. However, when she's not doing business, she sleeps with one of her father's henchmen and takes pills, alcohol, and cigarettes. Her erratic behavior is partly due to feeling responsible for the death of her mother, who died after a startled horse fell on her. Case, wanting to live in peace on the Broken Rock Reservation, does the exact opposite after avenging his brother's death. The trigger, of course, is her brother's death, which was carried out by Robert Long, Monica's brother. Case kills Robert and continues spinning to log in as his father's muscle. But everything changes again when Monica accidentally gets into a fight on the playground at the school where she teaches. After sustaining a brain injury and nearly dying in the hospital, Case decides the family needs to set a precedent in their lives. That doesn't work so well when the pressure is too great for Monica. Case moves home and becomes his father's full-time sidekick. He begins by putting Dan Jenkins on a horse with a noose around his neck and then hanging him up. Very casual Case. Meanwhile, Jamie tries to play the role of the more moral Dutton, which isn't a high bar, considering the track record of everyone else in this family. Jamie is a lawyer who uses his power to protect Yellowstone until the governor of Montana appoints him as the next attorney general. However, while this is happening, a journalist investigates the Dutton family and their criminal activities, including but not limited to the murder and manipulation of government officials. Meanwhile, John believes Jamie's career isn't the best for the family, so he gives his son an ultimatum: get out of politics or leave the family. At the end of the season, Jamie chooses the latter and exits the Yellowstone business as he nears the position of attorney general.
Brand isn't something you earn, something you live up to.
That's a hell of a price to pay.
Young Rip Wheeler, who arrived at John Dutton's doorstep as a teenager, had murdered his father for attacking and killing his mother, and was found covered in her blood. With a violent origin story, it's no surprise that Rip has become the most ruthless man on Yellowstone, with a vicious temper and an apparent lack of morals. He beat up people for minor infractions, smashed his best friend's hand, and gruesomely murdered more than one ranch hand who had fallen on the Duttons' bad side. He demands unwavering loyalty from his cowboys, and if he doesn't get it, they could be stabbed in the back. When it comes to the Dutton Ranch and the Dutton family, there's not much Rip wouldn't do. From bullying and murder to burying bodies, no questions asked. Rip is the one man you shouldn't run into in Yellowstone. He'll smash heads in with a hot iron, gouge eyes out with his thumbs, and throw bodies in a cannon without thinking twice.
Running out of time, Rip, and my children aren't ready to protect this place.
John tries to get Jamie out of the running for attorney general for the great state of Montana, but Jamie refuses, saying he's already sacrificed too much for the family. As a result, John is forced to incorporate Yellowstone into a family trust and remove Jamie.
For you, after everything I've said.
What have you done for me, Jamie? Besides helping me build the empire you stand to inherit. Sorry, son, I just don't see the sacrifice in that. Why don't you put the ranch in a trust?